again.
Back again.
So, we wanted to talk to y'all about the place that we are going to.
The spooky stuff happening there.
There's the paranormal. So, we're going to go to Vicksburg, Mississippi.
I don't think I've ever been there. I've been to Mississippi quite a few times because my stepdad's family actually lived there. So, but that was closer to Pontotoc. I don't know how.
I don't even know where that is.
I mean, I know it's in Mississippi, but I couldn't tell you exactly where it's at.
I only go to Mississippi in Tunica so I can go to the casino to gamble.
So I guess Vicksburg's going to be a new place for both of us.
It is. It's going to be a very new place for both of us. But I'm really excited. Really excited. I've been looking at these pictures here and they're very old school. Very old school.
So pretty.
It is very pretty. I like the antiques and all that fun stuff. Not everybody likes antiques and not everybody likes old stuff, and especially in this time period that we're going to go through when we talk to y'all about this, because I don't know, some people only like certain time periods.
I mean, everybody's got their favorites.
Yeah, like their eras that they really like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Vicksburg, Mississippi. This is supposed to be the most haunted mansion that we're going to.
That's exciting.
Very exciting.
So maybe we'll have some pretty good experiences.
I hope so. I really do. Especially since this is a new location and we haven't been here before and they don't know us.
I mean, the only location that I've been to is wherever I've lived, so.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that stuff had a lot to do with my family rather than the place actually being haunted.
Or the land.
That's a possibility too.
There might be something in the land.
But yeah, so do you want to start off with like a little bit of the history of the place, or?
We could do that if you want to.
Sounds good to me.
You want me to do it or you want to do it?
Well, I have the McRaven Tour Homes website up. Like you were telling me earlier, it does say the time capsule of the South. It's got 3 years listed here: 1797, 1836, and 1849.
Which I can go into that if they don't have any of that, because I have the stuff for it on this page that I have pulled up.
What it looks like, though, is different portions of the house were built at those times.
Sounds about right. That could be very correct from what I hear on this one, because I think there's like, there's 1, 2, 3 owners, going down the line that I see.
Okay, yeah, looking at this, that's actually exactly what it says. The first portion of the house was built in 1797, when George Washington was president and before Mississippi became a state. The second portion of McRaven was built in 1836 by Sheriff Stephen Howard.
Yep.
And the third was built in the Greek Revival style by John H. Bobb in 1849.
Yeah, I have him on there as well.
So it just kind of breaks it down, each of those little sections. That was literally the first sentences of each paragraph. Yeah, it does mention Highwayman, like you were talking about with me before we started recording earlier.
Yeah.
Andrew Glass. Highwayman Andrew Glass built a 2-brick structure with a bedroom above a kitchen with a removable ladder to prevent an ambush. While he slept, the blueberry and buttermilk plaster still adorned the walls. Blueberry and buttermilk plaster?
Old people like buttermilk. It's good with cornbread, they say. And we are from the South, but I do not like buttermilk and I do not like cornbread. But your husband likes cornbread and milk, but not
that's
buttermilk.
So I'm just kind of confused because this is going to make me sound really dumb. Blueberry and buttermilk plaster. I mean, is it plaster made with those?
Hold on. I'm checking into this for you.
I am an educated idiot, just so you know.
No, nothing. So you can make plaster with buttermilk and horsehair, among other things like colored blueberries.
Huh, interesting.
So, I don't know if that's maybe
So the blueberry was probably used as a way to color it. Okay.
Yeah, so almost like a paint, but not really a paint, but to go in with, if the house was blue in that time or whatever, and maybe instead of what we don't have now, because we have white plaster now, and we just sand it down and we paint over it. Maybe they didn't have all the paints and stuff.
Oh, sure, they didn't have all the options that we have today. it's just interesting to think about how people made things back then before they had all this stuff that we do now. Just like using whatever they have from the land and all that.
Right. And don't quote me on that because, like, that's just what I read. And you cannot always trust the Google.
Right.
But it does say that, and it did pull up the McRaven house when I did this. The oldest section of the house is the plaster that was made with buttermilk and horsehair, among with other things, and colored blueberries. So it's not only just buttermilk and blueberries. It has horsehair in it and other things. I'm sure it was, it had to be grinded down or whatever to make whatever. But
probably dried, turned into a powder, and
the
mixed
house,
in with, I don't know.
I'm looking inside right now of this house, and where the blue is, and it kind of has like, I would say like a rustic kind of feel, because it has a little bit of the brick and a little bit of the wall showing, where it's blue.
Yeah.
So it has that like antique looking feel. I don't know if rustic's like the actual word to use for it, but it definitely gives you an old feel looking in this room that I'm looking at the picture of right now. So it is very different.
Back on that first paragraph, it says that Mr. Glass would rob people traveling the Natchez Trace and hide out in McRaven. His surprising death became the start of McRaven's haunting. So Mr. Glass here would be the first ghost. He was the one that built the place and would be considered the first ghost.
Yes.
Or built the first portion of the house. The second portion, Sheriff Stephen Howard. And then, it just lists off the stuff that he added. Built in the Empire period, this portion of the house was simple but decorative touches. Sheriff Howard lost his young wife, Mary Elizabeth, after childbirth, and her spirit is the most active ghost in the house. That's good to know. Like, I remember Sam and Colby mentioning that in the episode that we watched.
Probably so. But the fact that she was 15 years old, we do need to throw in.
Yeah, that's a little bit disturbing.
That's a 15-year-old, I would say, child, because she is a young... It's in the middle. It's a young adult child figure because you're still in that. You're 3 years from becoming adult, but not necessarily there yet. But back in the times of their periods, it wasn't like a not uncommon thing for a 28 and a 15-year-old or a 50-year-old and a 15-year-old get married or something like that.
To me, that's kind of crazy to think about because like the huge gap in the obviously physical and then you have the maturity level. It's just that just sounds like a bad combination.
Yeah, and it is in the same year that he purchased the house that this happened. I don't know if that's on yours, but
let me look back at it. It doesn't really say that.
It says it on this one. It's just a blog. It's called visitvicksburg.com/blog/McRaven-house-Vicksburg-most haunted-mansion / Anyway, it says that she was 15 years old and that it was August the same year that he got the house, and that's when she died giving birth in the home. And it's actually in the home's middle bedroom. I don't know if that says that in there.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't give details like that. It just says that he lost his young wife, Mary, after childbirth.
And don't quote us on this because we're looking at two different things right now.
This is McRavenTourHome.com.
Yeah, I'm looking at something different than what you're looking at because I have that one up, but I don't have... I pulled up something else just so if we can get more information. If this is true information. We don't absolutely know that this is true information because we have not went through, they have a historical tour there, and I think that's one of the things, the haunted historical tour or whatever that we're going to do. is included into what we're going to do with the investigation if we wanted to, I think.
Yeah.
My husband said.
That was an option.
Yeah, that was an option if we wanted to know about it. It does say that a lot of Mary Elizabeth's personal belongings are still at the McRaven house.
Yeah, it says that here too. This website, McRaven Tour Home, I'm pretty sure is actually the official website.
Oh, yeah.
Because it does have tours listed up here. It's got ghosts listed, shop, and contact information.
I mean, it does say like a lot about what you're saying and the other one because it just has a little bit more in mind.
Yes.
Because it says like her wedding shawl's there, which I'm going to ask them these things. These are things that I want to ask them when we get there.
Yeah.
Like, hey, is Mary Elizabeth's wedding shawl still here? Or is her shawl still here? I want to know if you know anything. They say that she's very playful. Since you said that she was active, they said that she's known for playing pranks on.
This says that too.
Okay, so she's very childlike still. So that makes me wonder in her mind, like, I hate to bring this up, but like, you know, was she married because she had to get married and her family needed money? Because, you know, that's common back in those days. And, you know, old dude.
Kind of like as a way to make sure she was taken care of.
Yeah. So I think that's maybe one of the reasons why. Who knows? We might get an answer while we're there.
But it does say Mary Elizabeth often greets guests with that. That would be kind of
hello.
Kind of cool to be greeted by a ghost as soon as you got there.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that would be awesome to have her be like, hello, or, you know, something. But then we'd have to what is that word?
Debunk?
No, differentiate. It's like where you got to figure out who is who. You know what I'm talking about?
Which voice belongs to who?
Yeah, it's called I'm trying to use a big freaking word, okay?
Differentiate?
Yes, that word. There's some words, guys, I cannot say. Like, I don't care if he leaves this part in here or not, because it makes things funny. And I can't say certain words, like where Salem is. I cannot say that state, so don't make fun of me.
A lot of people have a hard time saying Massachusetts.
I'm not going to even attempt to even say it, but that is one of my favorite states so far.
My mother would say Massachusetts.
That's almost kind of how I say it.
I mean,
well, it says...
yeah,
mine's I say Massachusetts.
You attempted.
I attempted Massachusetts. That's how I say it. I can't say it unless I go shoots is. But I can't put it all together.
Okay, so y'all can tell we are still not organized, which is okay. It makes things a little bit entertaining, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Find out.
Well, I think that's how they are on the radio.
Yeah, it really is if you think about it.
Because they'll be like, oh, what about this? But, you know.
So if you don't like things that are a little all over the place, you're not going to like this.
No, but we try to make it funny. So, laugh. Ha ha ha. Okay, let's get back more into this.
So on that third portion, it doesn't really mention any deaths here. It just says that John H. Bob. Mm-hmm. John H. Bob. That just sounds funny.
John H. Bob. It's like John H. Bob.
He was a prominent brick manufacturer and sawmill owner. Mr. Bob built an elegant parlor, master bedroom, men's changing area, fly-wing staircase, and a Greek revival facade, which he later replaced by the Italianate facade with Vicksburg pillars. So
that's where the pillars come in. That's on the front of the house.
Yeah. So we only have on this page 2 deaths listed: Andrew Glass and Mary Elizabeth. Those
are the only 2 that you have on yours.
But now there is another page here. It says ghosts. And it has 1, 2, 3, and it has 3. But I did see on another article that what's her name? The owner's Kendra Reed, wife of Dr. Stephen Reed. They had said that according to some of the ghost hunters that they have had there, that there are like 14 spirits there altogether.
It's not the 13 ghosts.
No, it's the 14 ghosts.
It's the 14 ghosts. We got an extra one. So I know that you said that he turned in all that, but did they say anything that he did into, like, in the house?
John H. Bob?
Yeah.
Let me look here, because it does have a little...
Because
he's one of the ghosts listed.
Because mine has a little bit about...
Oh, okay. So, okay, I remember them talking about this. My memory is not that great. It's like dial-up connection with the line busy most of the time.
DSL, also dick sucking lips. That's funny because he's gay.
Right, you call me out like that. But John H. Bob, again, funny name. I don't know why. It's probably just me. But anyway.
It sounds like John H. Bob. Like he was a cannibal. John H. Bob. Because say it really fast.
Okay, I hear it now.
John H. Bob.
John H. Bob.
Sorry, John Bob.
But yeah, we're not going to talk to them like this when we're
there.
No. We're going to be
very respectful.
Right, but on this page it says that he was murdered. He survived the Vicksburg siege at McRaven, only to be murdered a year later by Union troops. Come and hear his story as this prominent businessman met his tragic end and how he still strolls his balcony.
Okay, so let me just add on to that. So he got shot in 1864, 100 yards away from the home.
Okay, yeah, I definitely remember Sam and Colby talking about that.
So not only that, he also had turned the house for a while into a Confederate field hospital during the Civil War because it was located close to battles raging throughout the city. So the home endured some cannon blasts and served as shelter for fallen soldiers.
Just hearing about stuff like that makes you wonder what kind of energy imprint that left on the land.
Exactly. So they're saying there's 14 ghosts maybe inside the home, but what's outside of it?
Yeah. Like, we know trauma attracts things.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's energy left behind. So.
Like, going back to Andrew Glass, because it just... I don't know why. It's just funny to think about a highwayman.
What is a highwayman? He's just a highway, like, does he build highways?
I want to say most of the time, and like back then, a highwayman was somebody you'd meet out on the roads who would rob you. I'm
Googling right now.
Yeah, look that up because I'm probably wrong.
There's songs
at least
about
partly.
it.
There was a song called "The Highwayman." It was like Johnny Cash and a couple of other people.
Okay, so you're right. A highwayman was a robber who stole from travelers. This type of thief usually traveled and robbed by horse as compared to a footpad who traveled and robbed on foot. Mounted highwaymen were widely considered to be socially superior to footpads. I wonder where his horse was.
Okay, so the footpad was somebody who just went around on foot.
I guess. They were romanticized at one point. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Highwaymen were romanticized at one point.
Well, I mean, I guess I could see it if pirates have been romanticized, so... I mean, I guess it makes sense.
It says, because of many of the victims were figures of authority or nobility and deemed to be wealthy, from the general view, the public, they could well offer to be robbed. And many people heard of this guy. His name is Dick Turpin. He is the infamous highwayman. So they're just saying that this is why, because I guess they could buy whatever they wanted after they stole from the noble and the high wealthy figures. So that's like somebody coming in and being like, hey, I got, $10,000. What do you think about that? I'll take you out somewhere nice, baby.
Hearing all of that, what if somebody had like this robbery kink? Like, oh, rob me, daddy.
Oh my gosh. So, funny story. The first appearance in Robin Hood is a criminal biography that comes to Captain Smith's A History of Lives and Robberies, for the most noted highwaymen in 1719. So Robin Hood is listed as a highwayman and murderer.
Huh, makes sense.
But in the Disney, I think it was Disney that made it. In the Disney film, he is portrayed as he's stealing from the rich and giving to the poor.
Right, and I want to say that I've never actually read the original story, so I don't really know. But I think that was his thing in that too.
Yeah. So I'm not sure about the real story because, I don't know about that. Obviously, I didn't even know about highwaymen, but now it makes sense.
You see, because I was like, because I was thinking that's what a highwayman did. I was like, well, how could someone just being a robber
That's true. But
afford to build a house? But I mean, if they were robbing people like that and didn't get caught.
So they're saying right here is a question. So it says, is the highwayman a villain or a hero? What do you think it is?
Specifically, a certain highwayman or highwaymen in general?
It's just in general, I would assume.
Well, were they only robbing these, what do they call them, noblemen?
Noblemen, like the more wealthy. The ones that would have like political power, I would assume.
I guess potentially it could.
So,
especially if they were like Robin Hood.
So right here it says the redcoats are the villains. The redcoats were the villains and the highwayman is the hero. So back then, he could have been a hero. I could see him having parties at that house. I mean, it might not have been that extravagant and huge at that point in time.
I mean, that could be a question to ask when we actually go there.
Right.
Because we don't know.
And little get-togethers, just little small things. Because you never know what things that they always dabbled in.
Yeah.
Because people don't always know things like that. That's more digging to do maybe on the dead side.
Digging on the dead side.
Digging on the dead side.
I feel like this should be a song.
That should either be a song or that should definitely be like a band name.
Mm-hmm.
Digging on the dead side. So we got through that, and you went back to Andrew Glass.
Yeah.
Which I swear I've heard his name before.
Yeah, and it does sound familiar, but then again, at the same time, I also knew people with the last name Glass.
Yeah,
so
but
that's probably the reason it sounded familiar to me.
I want to say there was a historical thing that I had. I don't know. No, because this is a different dude. He's from Poland, and there's an author. So I could be crazy. Well, we already knew that. Oh, the heck? Okay. Andrew Glass titles Sweetwater Run, The Story of Buffalo Bill, Cody and the Pony Express, Mountain Men and True Grit and Tall Tales. That's what it gets into. Anyway, we're getting off topic here because I wanted to look up about Andrew Glass. Glass.
I just went back to that article from the Washington Post, the Vicksburg Post.
The Washington Post.
They had a little bit more information on John H. Bob.
John H. Bob.
And I'm pretty sure that, I want to say I remember hearing this on Samuel Colby too, but where you were talking about the field hospital during the Civil War, Bob argued with and eventually threw a rock at Union soldiers who were picking flowers out of his yard. Shortly after, Bob went to the courthouse to inform General Henry W. Slocum of his actions. The apology was accepted, but as Bob walked home, he was met down the street by a number of Union soldiers who killed him.
So he didn't get very far.
No, doesn't really sound like the apology was actually accepted.
No, not at all.
But I mean, they were the thieves. If they were picking flowers out of his yard, I mean, technically they were thieves.
Well,
they were in the wrong.
I mean, it depends on what part of the yard. Because technically, I know it wasn't back then, but technically, the government owns in your yard, or the state, something like that, owns like a little percentage of your yard.
Interesting. I've never heard that.
Hold on, let me look it up just to make sure. I think my husband knows though. The state or the whatever owns a certain percentage of the front of your yard. It's called a what? The easement. I don't know how much of that is. the right granted to an entity to use a piece of property belonging to a separate individual or entity for a specific purpose. So the most common types of easements are in real estate are that the grant road or the utility access. So it's like a little B portion. Yeah, so depending on that, I wouldn't say that. I mean, if he was in like the middle of his yard picking flowers, then yeah, I would be like, why the fuck are you picking flowers in my damn yard? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see both sides.
But if it was just like a little patch along the line of the road, you know? But I would say like a little strip, it shouldn't have been a problem.
But if we get back to the people who were...
Like John H. Bob.
Yeah, like John H.
I
Bob
had to do it.
owned the house and stuff, and I just lost it.
What did you lose? Your sanity? That was lost a long time ago.
Oh, yeah, no, that was
Yeah.
gone. I'm not even sure if I had it.
Probably not. Not in this day and age. We probably don't have it.
But this does say that countless soldiers are buried on the property. And a few years ago, a marker was placed to recognize the unnamed servicemen.
Okay, so there's a graveyard on the property.
After John H. Bob, it says years later, William Murray purchased the house and raised his family there until his death in the house in 1911. His wife and 2 of their children all died in the house. So that's at least...
That's 4 right there, because 4 of them died inside.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
We had Andrew Glass.
We got Andrew Glass. John H. Bob died on the property. Mary Elizabeth, she died. That's 7. But that's not even including the soldiers that might have been brought in.
Yeah.
Or who died on the land before.
Right. I mean, people have been wandering the earth for however long people have existed at this point. And anywhere somebody dies...
Dinosaurs.
And it's not necessarily that a spirit is always attached to one place. A lot of them can roam.
Oh, yeah. That's why they're called portals. You can jump to portal to a different portal. It's like, dude, that's like... What's it called? It's called, like, jumping.
Portal jumper.
There was a movie made about jumping. It's called Jumping or Jumper or something like that. But they weren't dead.
I think I know what you're talking about.
It was a cool movie.
Quantum Leap? Or was it a TV show? Or
It was a movie.
Oh, okay, maybe I don't know what you're talking about.
But I think I did see that one too because I like watching movies like that.
Yeah.
So I probably could have said, it could have been that. But yeah, they said that the daughters.
Murray's daughters?
Yeah, they had the house until 1960.
Yeah, that's what it says right here, too. If his daughters continued to stay there till 1960 when one died and the other moved into a nursing home.
A nursing home?
Hmm?
Oh, so she didn't die there.
No.
Oh,
But
okay.
from what I'm seeing here before the house, I think that they might have been, before the house was turned into like a tour home where people would just come in and learn the history and all that stuff. I think that the Murrays were the last people.
Yeah, to live there.
Mm-hmm.
To actually live into the house.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. And they let it go, man. Because apparently that's what it said in here, that they let it go. So somebody, which is Dr. what's his name, Stephen, and Katrina, right?
Kendra.
Kendra.
Like
sorry.
Kendra Scott.
Excuse me. Kendra. Reed probably fixed it up because they bought it in 2015. So I'm guessing they fixed it up and that's what they reopened it to the public.
If I remember right, earlier in this, it did have them speaking about that because they didn't want to see that piece of history lost like that. But it does say right here, Brad and Pat Bradway were the first family to make the house a tour home. They did extensive renovations from where it had fallen into disrepair, so it was probably just sitting there before Mr. and Mrs. Bradway bought the place, and then I don't know if it has every owner listed here or not. I haven't really looked.
It probably doesn't. I mean, if they got it in, say, in the 60s, they could have had it for 30, 40, 50 more years.
Yeah.
Because by the time you think of, we're in the 60s. So in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you're in 2001-ish, 2010, something like that. 2000.
Sorry, I zoned out.
90, 2000, 2010, 5 years. So if somebody had the home for 50 years, I mean, it could be one owner for 50 years. Because, you know, a lot of people will keep a house for 50 years or whatever, especially if they're doing a historical thing or whatever.
Yeah, it could have just been sitting there. The owner probably didn't do anything with it, especially if it fell into disrepair before the Bradways got it. But, like, here's another interesting thing that Kendra said. Not only just 3 different styles of architecture in the house, but you also have 3 different socioeconomic classes. You have the Bobs and the Murrays, who are wealthy. Then you have the Howards, the sheriff. He's like a working class guy. And then you have Andrew Glass, who's your let's rob people on the Natchez Trace guy. So, again, this is on the Vicksburg Post website.
So pretty much you got your wealthy, you got your middle class, and then you got the lowest.
Yep. And it's funny that it started with the lowest.
Yeah, it went to poverty.
Well, I don't know. If he was a highwayman, he probably wasn't in poverty.
I know, but he started out in poverty.
I'm sure.
That's why he probably became a highwayman.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, I don't know if we have any other history on him other than that to know for sure.
I'm going to look this up real quick and see if there's any more stuff about Mr. Glass. There's Wikipedia.
One of the, I don't know if you can actually hear the sarcasm in my voice or not, greatest sources of information online. Now, you can get a lot of information on there, but whether or not it's reliable, because anybody can go on there and edit it.
I agree. But this does say something that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So, remember how I said that the street is now Harrison Street?
Yes.
It was McRaven Street.
Yeah, and then you were telling me that that's how the house got the name McRaven.
Yeah. So, McRaven, of course, was built around, 1797 by Andrew Glass. The town at the time was called Walnut Hills, which is now Vicksburg.
Oh.
In the Civil War era, it was known as the Bob House, with John H. Bob.
The Bob House became McRaven House.
It is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. McRaven got the current name because the street that it was located on. Yeah, so it was formerly McRaven Street, but they changed it to Harrison Street. So I don't know why, but it says McRaven has been on the Mississippi Department of Archives and History Historic Preservation. I had to say that very slowly so I could say it correctly. Since January the 8th, 1978, which I think that's weird because I think that's our dad's birthday.
Wait, what was it the date again?
Hold on, now I'm going to look up some connections.
I wonder why they didn't just call it the Glass House since it started with Andrew Glass.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Like, McRaven sounds cool and kind of goth and gives it more of that creepy vibe, but
right.
It's like, is it really fitting?
Is it really fitting for that house?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, back in the day, the houses, like the antebellum houses, were, they were done on certain streets, and I think they named them after the first big, like, antebellum or a Victorian huge house. And I think the wealthy people that had that huge house, they would name that house and that street would be named after them because they owned it, pretty much.
I don't really know a whole lot about, like, naming houses and things like that. What little I do know about it from I think it's an animist perspective, where, you believe that there's a spirit for everything, like everything has its own spirit. Some people believed that their house had a spirit, like its own personality, like the house itself. When I say it has a spirit, not like a ghost, but the house, just like you and I have our own spirit, like the house had a spirit and personality, kind of like Casita from Encanto. Yeah. And part of, I guess, acknowledging that would be to name the house. And I can't remember exactly what it was. I wish I had that book with that specific information in it in front of me right now, but it's packed up. Anyway, I thought it was really interesting thing that people don't really name their houses that often anymore, and I've seen a lot of things where people talked about saying hello and goodbye to your house when you're coming in and going. So it kind of also makes me think Rose Red too, where the house is like alive.
Rose Red. Okay, so it can't be the same year because our dad is 50.
Oh yeah, that's right. That makes sense.
Yeah, and my
It
mom
wouldn't
was
be that
born
much
in
older.
my mom was born in 1967. Yeah, November 28th, 1967. So Joey's birthday just a couple years older.
Just a couple.
Just a couple. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's very close to when he was born. Sorry, got off track there. But
We just look, if we happen to see anything that looks like some kind of synchronicity with a lot of the things that we're doing, it's just kind of intriguing to check it out.
But the whole thing that you're saying right now, that was on the McRaven's Vicksburg page, about, like the Pioneer section and the Empire architectural. Like, this is all put in Wikipedia right now.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's always inaccurate. It's just it's the whole thing that just anybody can go in there and edit.
Ooh, they burned
and
his
it
house
can.
down.
Who burned whose house down?
So, John Bob.
John Bob.
John H. Bob. Noticed the group of people picking flowers from his garden. So it wasn't from like a yard. I would assume it was a garden. Because back then they did have gardens.
Yeah, they did have flower gardens and things. I mean, people still do, but not
as often as what it used to be back then. It said he was outraged and promptly ordered them to leave. Immediately, the soldiers cursed at him and refused to leave. So John picked up a brick and threw it at him, knocking a sergeant to the ground. The soldiers left and vowed to burn Bob's house. Bob then reported the incident to the federal commander of Vicksburg, General Henry W. Slocum, who dismissively said he would get them that were responsible. And upon returning to the gates of his home, Bob was met by 25 Union troops who took him to the bayou. Which was 100 yards away from the house, and fatally shot him in the back and face.
That sounds brutal.
And it says that his death was the first recorded act of violence perpetrated by Union troops after the siege. I guess that's how you call it.
The siege?
Yeah, the siege. I can't read, guys. I didn't even know that John had a wife. Did you know that?
I don't remember
seeing anything about his wife. I mean, this is just one little, snippet about it.
Now I gotta go back and see because my brain don't work right half the time. So John H. Bob was the last one listed here, and it doesn't say anything about his family.
Okay, so it says that he has a widow, which he didn't have a family. He just had a wife, it seems like. It said that Selena, that's his widow's name, sold the house to a realtor in 1869 and moved to a family plantation outside of New Orleans, Louisiana called Sunnyside. So she went back to New Orleans. And that's when it was sold to William Murray in 1882.
Yeah,
and they said, what was it? Oh, it has Ellen's, I guess her middle name in here. It says, oh no, his wife is Ellen. Murray and his wife Ellen Flint
that name sounds familiar.
Raised 4 daughters and 3 sons. So go back to the counting.
That's a lot of kids.
So go back to the counting that we did earlier. We only just had 7.
Yeah.
That's like 10 more, right? I mean 3 more, because it makes 10.
Something like that.
Something like that. We got old Bob, right?
So if we're just counting former residents.
Yeah, former residents. So, we got Bob. We got Glass, right? Glass's wife, right? Because it was Glass's wife.
Mary Elizabeth.
Yeah, Mary Elizabeth.
No, wait, no.
No, that was
Sheriff Stephen Howard.
Okay, so Stephen, and then his wife was Mary Elizabeth. So that's 5 right now.
Yeah, so that's 5 of the adults, not counting the kids.
Yes.
If you count the kids, so he said Mr. John H. Bob.
John H.
Had 7 altogether.
No.
4 girls, 3 boys?
No, this is William Murray.
Okay. Never mind.
So we're getting into William and Ellen. So that's 7 right now.
7 adults.
7 adults. And then you have their 4 daughters. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 3 sons. That's 14.
But that doesn't count, like, Mary Elizabeth and Sheriff Stevens.
I did count them.
Oh, you did count them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's 14.
Was that the only child Mary Elizabeth had?
Well, I didn't count the child.
Because I'm assuming
she died during childbirth.
Yeah,
so
it says Mary Elizabeth died.
That the child died too.
Well, it says lost his young wife Mary Elizabeth after childbirth. So the way that's worded makes it sound like she had the baby and then died afterwards.
Yes.
So that baby probably lived then. I mean, that's possible.
Baby spirits are more, I think, harder to get in contact
I
with.
wonder if I could find anything on Mary Elizabeth.
I'm just going to go, while you're searching, and say a little bit about the Murrays, because they actually have their names of their children in here.
Mm-hmm.
So, William Murray died in the house in 1911. His wife died there in 1921. His daughter Ida died in 1946. And his son died in 1950, all in McRaven. So maybe not all of them died in McRaven, but maybe they had a connection to come back.
Mm-hmm.
From this point on, the Williams daughters, Annie and Ella, both unmarried and lived alone in the house with no modern, conveniences aside from a telephone. And no contact with the outside world except their doctor, Walter Johnson. That's strange. Just your doctor?
Wait, what? One more time?
They had no contact with the outside world except their doctor, Walter Johnston.
Well, I mean,
Yeah. And then in 1960s, when Ella Murray died at the age of 81. So she lived a pretty long time for that time period.
Yeah.
And then her sister, Annie, sold the house after moving into the nursing home. So she probably was like, I'm going to the nursing home because I'm not sitting in this house by myself.
Yeah.
And that's when they said that the house was in such despair that the neighbors and nearby residents had no idea that it actually existed.
Huh.
The upper story was completely overgrown with vines, and the sisters had resorted to chopping up the antique furniture for firewood. And then it talks about when your friend Bradway purchased it in 1960 and started the tours in 1961.
Wow, how many years of tours is that? Like 60-something?
I'm not good at math.
2023 now. But I mean, I'm sure that they had to stop at some point because the way that article was worded with Kendra, they were talking about they were planning on getting the tours up again.
Well, that could have been COVID.
That's true too, but that specific article was also talking about them closing on the house and all that stuff about them purchasing
what it says right here, that they started touring in 1961. The house was placed in the National Register of Historical Places in January 8, 1979. Later that year, Bradway had sold McRaven and some furnishings to Charles and Sandra Harvey for $75,000. So there's another person. And after the spring pilgrimage, the Harveys closed the house and took a year-long restoration at a cost of nearly $100,000. So the restoration included things such as woodwork, rewiring, plumbing, plastering, and master plaster restorations. Mr. Lil Jackson took an extraordinary task of plastering the walls and ceilings and restoring the Greek part of the house and the ceiling. It has the metal, the metal
light fixtures.
No, it's called ceiling medallions. Medallions.
Medallions, yeah.
I had to read it again. They even had samples from the original carpet from the era that Mr. Bob lived there.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Harvey found a company in Georgia to reproduce the carpet for the parlor, the front entry room, the stairwell, the upstairs front bedroom. So she also did extensive search each period. So each time period of the house, she did a very extensive search to make it authentic with the paint, the wallpaper, the fabrics, the furnishings. The front and rear porch were in disrepair, and they had it roped off. Lincoln Brown with the Waterways Experimental Station rebuilt both the front and the rear porches. There's an attic in the house. So while in the attic, Mr. Harvey discovered many rafters had been damaged from the Union's shelling and needed repair. The 1840 Privy, maybe that's how it was, which was purchased by Bradway from the Vic House, was also repaired. Isn't that one of the houses that I looked at earlier? I think that's one. Once again ready for touring, the Vicksburg Sunday Post featured the McRaven's Spring Pilgrimage opening house in April the 6th, 1980. So that was in the issue of their newspaper. And she was returned to her authentic glory.
It's interesting to me, like, even with all the negative stuff that's happened there, it still sounds like that this house is something that is really loved by people.
Oh, yeah.
To put that kind of work into it to try to get everything as authentic as possible.
Yes.
It's kind of weird to think about. Is it the tragic part of it that draws people into it?
I will say something, because this goes back to paranormal, and everybody has a third eye. Everybody has one that's either a little bit open or a little bit closed. We all had it open at one point when we were a child.
Mm-hmm.
The house chooses you. Sometimes the house chooses you.
Like what it wants to reveal to you? Or
sometimes, I know I watched I think it was with Katrina and maybe Adam Berry, or it might have been with Nick Goff. But there was this lady that was very drawn to a house.
Oh, okay. I think I get where my mind just went in another direction for some reason.
And necessarily, like, they didn't want it to be fixed up, but I mean, in this thing, it could be somebody wanted it to be fixed up. So, I mean, that's a little thing to consider there.
Kind of like how, say, this person's drawn to crystals, but they're not really drawn to herbs.
Yes.
And then sometimes the other way around. Like, say,
I have both, but I'm not drawn to doing rituals. Like charging my crystals, or I've tried the moon water thing. I've tried to put water out there or try to catch water, and I'm just not good at it. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
They did say that the Harveys and their 2 children never lived there in the house. They spent many nights in the Howard's bedroom protecting the home from vandals. In 1984, the Harveys moved to the Natchez. It sounds so German. I just want to be like, Natchez.
I think it's Native American. I don't know which specific.
I just think I feel like it sounds German to me because it has a Z at the end of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that's, what it is. But then they said that they sold the McRaven house to Leland French for $275,000. And he purchased it, and he did some further restoration. It says he was the first owner since the Murphys to reside in the house. Aside from a modern kitchen and bathroom in its basement, McRaven has remained largely unchanged since the 19th century.
Oh, cool.
For this reason, that is why McRaven is featured in the July issue in 1963 of National Geographic magazine, which is called The Time Capsule of the South, which we mentioned earlier.
Well, looking at it from that aspect also, that would make sense for some people wanting to preserve it and take care of it like that, because it is a historical thing. And don't know why that just caught up to me rather than back then when we were actually talking about all that.
Well, listen to this. You've watched the Beverly Hillbillies, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, among the visitors that have came to the McRaven house since it's opened its doors in 1961, Max Baer Jr. and Irene Ryan from the sitcom The Beverly Hillbillies toured the house in the mid-1960s and autographed a photo of all of them at the house that hangs in the foyer.
That's pretty cool.
So we need to look for that one.
Irene Ryan. That was Granny?
I can't remember. And
I remember the name.
I don't really.
Yes, that was Granny.
Yeah, it was Granny.
Yes.
The one that always sat in the rocking chair.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Jan. She was the best part of the show.
I don't remember this, though. They said that there was a Ghost Adventures episode titled Ghost of Vicksburg's McRaven Mansion.
I don't remember that either.
I don't
then
know.
again, I haven't seen that many episodes.
But it said it aired in 2018 on the Travel Channel. They investigated reports of a aggressive ghost of Andrew Glass, the highwayman who was murdered by his jealous wife. He was murdered by his jealous wife. I haven't heard that. I don't know if that is completely true, but maybe Ghost Adventures, Zach Bagans, if you listen to this, if you can clear some things up for me, please, especially on our Twitter. Let me put this out there because we're at WAPS Podcast on Twitter. I don't know how to Twitter, so I'm not used to this. I always just think Twitter on my twat. That's what I call Twitter on my tot. Or you can clear it up on our Facebook page, facebook.com/WAPS podcast. If anybody even knows anything about this, you can get in contact with us either way on those pages. We also have an email. It's wapspodcast@gmail.com. And if you guys can't understand my damn accent, let me spell it out for you. Okay? It's WAP. Now hold on, let me do this correctly. W as in white, A is in apple, P as in pineapple, S as in shit, P as in piss, O is as in oral, D as in dick, C as in cunt, A as in asshole, S as in shithead, T as in twat. At the symbol at, on your computer, it's on the number 2, or if you get your phone out, you can find the at symbol, and then it's G as in G-spot, M as in masturbate, A as in anal, I as in
I think we forgot what we're spelling out now.
No, I'm spelling out Gmail. You're interrupting me. G as in G-spot, M as in masturbate, A as in anal, I as in ice, because people like to masturbate with ice, L as in lick, .com, and that is C as in cum, O as in oral, and M as in masturbate. So, wapspodcast@gmail.com. My brother is looking at me like I'm a fucking idiot over here.
I'm just wondering,
what people are going to think.
Well, not so much that. It's just I wonder how much of that is actually. I can't think of the word. I don't think
I could have said
word. But
I could have said M as in masochist or whatever, how that word said. Dang it. I could have came up with some good words, y'all.
But with that, though, we are getting short on time.
Yes, because I'm about to have to run up to the casino. Make my trip to Mississippi, but not Vicksburg.
No, not yet.
That will be on another time. So, I think we gave y'all a rundown about all the stuff that's going on today. I'm getting really country with this right now. I don't know. It's probably
I want to hear more about Mr. Glass's death, but we'll probably figure that out when we get there.
We might figure it out. Why am I talking so southern right
I
now?
have to rewatch that episode of Sam and Colby, see what they said.
Sam and Colby, and I think we need to go back and look at Ghost Adventures.
Yeah, that too.
Because they said that they have at Vicksburg, the McRaven house. So, those are two different things. And we encourage you guys to go look up these things too. If you have Discovery Plus, you can see Ghost Adventures on there. They have a lot of their seasons on their episodes. I'm very nice. I'm not going to say anything because some people don't like certain people, and I'm not saying that I don't like certain people. I have loved Zach through the years. I'm just going to leave it at that. But Sam and Colby are really cool dudes. We hope that we can collaborate with them one day. And
I could see that being fun.
yeah, I mean, they're around our age. So that should be a fun thing that we could possibly do in the near future if we reach out to them. Even maybe Selena Spooky.
Oh, yeah.
Because she does some
She's
stuff.
really funny, too.
Yeah. Well, I'm really freaking funny, too. So maybe me and her can, like, ha, fuck you. You know, joke around and shit. I don't know.
You know, I could see that.
Yeah. I was like, okay. This is all the information that we have for you today. But, yeah. So, look those things up, guys. Look up Sam and Colby, the McRaven house. They have an episode. It's on YouTube. And then if you have Discovery Plus, or there might be some other things out there. I don't really know because we just have Discovery Plus, and that's what we watch some of our stuff on for Ghost Adventures. Watch an episode called, I think it's called Vicksburg's The McRaven House. I think that's correct when I looked at it earlier. Do not quote me on that, but look up Vicksburg, because if you look up Vicksburg on the Ghost Adventures, it should be able to pull up, I would assume. I'm sure that the Sam and Colby episode is called the McRaven House.
I can't remember.
I mean, either way, when you pull it up, if it has anything about McRaven in it, it's going to pull up. Mm-hmm. So just make sure that you watch the Sam and Colby one. That's on YouTube. And then the Ghost Adventures one, that's on Discovery Plus. So that's all that we have for you guys here today. So we're gonna be signing off soon. I gotta go win some money, so I gotta go, rinse my hands in salt and throw some cinnamon somewhere, and maybe sage myself. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Pack some clothes.
The old, make room for the new.
Yeah, Anyway, to you all, my little boos, I will see you later. I'm signing off. This is Gypsy Wit.
And Damon, y'all stay spooky.
Bye, y'all.